Hello again in this most wonderful time of the year. The advent of code is here and today we are day 2. So if you do not know what is advent of code and what was day 1, please check out the first video. So let's today start up immediately with the next problem, say gift shop. You get inside and take the elevator to its only other stop, the gift shop. Thank you for visiting the North Pole, gleefully explains a nearby sign. You aren't sure who is even allowed to visit the North Pole, but you know that you can access the lobby through here, and from there you can access the rest of the North Pole base. As you make your way through, the surprisingly extensive selection of one of the clerks recognize you and ask you for help. As it turns out, one of your younger elves was playing on a gift shop computer and managed to add a whole bunch of invalid product IDs to their gift shop database. Uh-oh. Surely it would not be trouble for you to identify the invalid products IDs for them, right? They have been checked most of the product ID ranges already, and they only have a few product ID ranges left, which is your puzzle input that you need to check. For example, those would be the sample inputs. The ranges are separated by the comma and each range gives first ID and the last ID separated by the dash. Since the young elf was doing silly patterns, you can find the invalid IDs by looking for any IDs which is only made of some sequences of digits repeated twice. So for example, 55 is just 5 twice, 64, so it's twice, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 twice. So basically all of these IDs that repeat themselves are in violation. So none of the numbers have leading zeros. That's not a functional ID, good to know. And your job is to find all of those invalid IDs that appear in the given ranges. So from the 11 to 22 there are 2 such things. From the 95 there is 1, and here we also have only 1. So at the end our password is the sum of all those invalid IDs. I have already solved it and I have my answer, but it will be different for you, of course, based on your input. Let's start always with the sample input. As previously mentioned, it's a great place to try out different programming languages. For example, I have become rusty with the Go, so I would like to practice Go a bit more and work on my problems using it. So let's start by defining the part 1, which will be the input of these ranges. So let's for now keep it open. And again, I want to break down problem into smaller steps. I want to have it as separate testable components that I can verify that they work, because advent of code is all about debugging, finding the edge cases and understanding what you are missed. And if I will need to look at all of the code base to understand what it's wrong, it will be just a mess. But if I will build with verified steps, blocks, one at a time, I will know that these steps are fine. I will need to go and search for my problem somewhere down the line. So our goal here is following. We have a range of numbers, so we need to go over them, and we need to find those that are repeating. Okay, so I will define then a function if the ID is valid. And I will provide an ID as a number and I will return a boolean back. So by default, I will say that it is not valid. And here I will start with testing and just define simple steps. Test valid IDs. Right, so I will have a test just for these valid IDs. I, of course, have not turned off the copilot, but okay, let's see how it will assist or not. So these will be my test scenarios, and for each of those IDs, I want to test if it's valid, and if it's not valid, then I throw an error. Okay, so import testing, and what would be the valid IDs? So 1 is valid ID, it has no repeating numbers. 2 also would be a valid ID. 1, 2 also is a valid ID. 1, 2, 3 valid ID. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 1, 2, 2, 3 would also be a valid ID. 1, 1, 3, 2, 2 also would be a valid ID because there are no repeating paths. So I think that's a good enough current scenario that to test the valid IDs. And now they will fail on all of them. Now let's go to our implementations. So how to understand if it is correct? So one way, of course, you could take a number and divide it into the digits and start comparing it. That's a great approach, but I will be lazy. I will consider them as strings and will use just string comparison. I will divide the string in half, and if both parts are the same, it means that I have found a solution. So I will transform it into the string. And it immediately tells me actually which numbers will not be repeating itself. If the number is with odd length, they are not consisting of two same parts. So here I could check if length of this string is not even. I can just say that it's valid. Otherwise, I can compute the middle point, take the first half and the second half, and here return if the first half does not equal the second half, then the number is valid. If those are same, it is invalid. Let's go to the test, run the test again. Now we can see all of the scenarios have passed. Okay, now let's define the second test for our invalid cases. So, invalid IDs. So we know that 1, 1 should be invalid, 2, 2 should be invalid, 1, 2, 1, 2 should be invalid, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's just add the second part. So all of them are repeating. So here we should check if it's valid. The opposite, if it's not returning false, we are failing the test. Okay, we can see that we have successfully determined if the number is valid or it's not. So now that we know that this block is covered with tests and it's functional, we can use it in our solution right here. So we need to have a result that will be a total sum of those all elements. Now we go over each line, and we will need to, and we know that each segment based by the input is separated by the dash, and we need to have the start and the end. So we can get parts which would be strings split line by this one. Then we go with the start, and we know we need to transform it to an integer, and okay. And now we need to go over this range from start till end and check if it's valid. Actually, we need to check if it's invalid and not increment it, but add the ID to itself. So we go over this range, check for all those invalids and sum them together and return back the result. Okay, in theory that should be for the part 1. Let's define a test scenario that could verify that. Let's have part 1 with the sample input from our puzzle. So input will be this string, and let's here add this one. It's just that there is no processing involved, so let's maybe have differently. Let's have this one large long string. Okay, and we will split it by the comma. Split this string by the comma. Okay, now we have the input. The expected result, let's see what would be the expected result. It is this one. Let's run the and compare them. Okay, AI is quite useful today. Let's run it. And we have matched our sample input. Now here comes the puzzle input, right? We need to read the file, split it not here, we split it again here by comma. Expected result we will just take. Okay, doing the same thing. Yeah, fine. Implement the OS. And I already have solved. This is my input for my sample. I have already downloaded my input, so let's run it. And success! We have solved and earned first star. Now let's go to the part 2. The clerk quickly discovers that there are still invalid IDs in the range. Maybe the young elf was doing other silly patterns as well. Now an ID is invalid if it's made only of some sequence of digits repeated at least twice. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, there it's repeated 2 times. Here 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 is repeated 3 times. and here is repeated 5 times. And here this one is 7 times. So they all are invalid IDs. So now instead of just halves, we need to see if there is this repeating pattern. Okay, so let's then define new function is ID valid repeating. And here again we can change it to string. Hack for the even length is not working, but we know that if the length is actually equal to 1, then there is no repeating parts, and we can say that this ID is valid. And now we need to check all of these possible sub-interval combinations, right? So if we start with length 2, check if it's always repeating the length of 2, then check if it's 3, 4, and etc. So we will need to go with the starting from 1 length of this number, increment by 1. And we need to define what is our sequence. So our sequence is everything till I. And now ideally we would need to understand how many times it actually could fit, how many times we need to check by dividing the length of this number by our this sub. So if there is 4 digits and the sub is 2, it means that there could be 2 times repeated. And at least in Go there is a cool function we could use, which is strings repeat, and I can provide a sequence sub and how many times. And here, if they match, I can say that this number is false. But if I will go over all the sequences and none matches are found, I'll return just true. Okay, let's go here and define our test functions just to be sure that it is working. So here test valid repeating IDs. So 1 should be valid, 2 should be valid, 1, 2 should be valid, 1, 2, 3. So again, these all should be valid scenarios. Wrong function is valid repeating. So all of these should be valid ones. Yes. Now we take invalid ones, test invalid repeating IDs. So 1, 1 is invalid because 1 is repeated twice. 2, 2 is also 1, 2, 1, 2 is the sequence of 2 elements. So 1, 2, 3 sequence of 3 elements, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and let's add here one more. So 3 repeats of sequence of 3. Here let's add multiple 12s repeating. Okay, something like that. So all of these should be now invalid. Yes, indeed, our test says that it is. So now we know and we have verified that this function works, and let's go now and finish with this problem. So we have part 1, let's go for the part 2. So everything here stays the same, only changes is invalid repeating, and that's all. Let's go with the sample input now for the part 2 sample input. And here from this example, we know that the value should be this one. Okay, let's run it. And there is a failure. Okay, let's see where we could go wrong. And here is our copy-paste issue that we wanted to have here a division by 2 equal to 1, but we want to have the length 1. So length 1 is not repeating. So here I think that is our actually problem. So I'll run the sample input and it's correct one. Now the moment of truth for the puzzle input. Ta-da-da-da-da-da-da. So part 2, and I already have solved, I know my puzzle output. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, and success! We have solved the day 2 and earned our second 2 stars. I still encourage you to go and solve the next days on your own. There is no wrong solution, there is no slow solution, there is no fast solution. It's just the solution. It's all about the problem solving. Try different programming languages, make it challenging for you. And then come back tomorrow to my video and let's compare our solutions. And that's why you need to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. But until then, keep coding, ho ho ho, and I see you next time.